So, of course, it is the October general meeting, which for the past 53, 54 years, that means it is Astrophotography Night, a tradition we started in roughly 1971, 1972, long before I was in the club. So it's been around a long time. So we have upwards of 11 members. I don't know if any, I don't know if they're all here, or I know some are on Zoom, some are here, so I don't know if they're all here, but they're all going to share images with us and tell us what they've been up to the past year or so. And if you have any questions of how they took the images, because you want to take some too, tonight's the night to do that. So.
Okay, great. Okay. I'd like to introduce myself. Greg Shanis. I heard about the Kalamazoo Astronomical Society during the great COVID shutdown, and I took Richard's astronomy class twice, and I'm looking for the third time. So, unbeknown to many, there was a historic series of Titan shadow transits this year. And this is from Sky and Telescope. It started April 29th, and the last one will be October 6th. And they were all 16 days apart and only visible in the Western Hemisphere, because in the Eastern Hemisphere was during daylight, so they couldn't see it. And Saturn has very low surface brightness. And and I only heard about it on the first week of May. So I missed the April 29th, but I looked at WinJupos. This is a fantastic program that's free online. And I looked, did a simulation here. And here's where it would have been right on the ring line here. And notice it's 8:24 a.m. local time. So this would have been during the daylight. So I would have missed this anyway. But I took it upon myself to observe as many of them as I could. And most of them, these are the conditions I had. All right. And here's a Saturn. So no one would ever image on a night like this, okay, and especially planets. But you can see Saturn here, and notice the the, uh, the clouds are very light here. So this is when I would take a 75-second video and then process that. When it's here and when it's in here, you don't see it at all. But fortunately, the clouds do move pretty quickly, so that was kind of nice. And that's the moon. So here's my series of shadow transits. Isn't this amazing? So I used the Meet LX 200 10-inch f10 and a ZWO 462 monochrome camera. You don't need it to be cooled for planetary. I used the Beta 610 R red infrared long pass filter and a Vernon scope Barlow 1.25x, very low magnification of the Barlow, and luckily the overall seeing was actually above average. It was pretty good, but the transparency was very poor. These were all through clouds. That's why here you don't see the rings very well. But these were taken from Longboat Key, which is a barrier island in Sarasota, Florida. So it's not the Keys like Key West, okay? It's an hour south of Tampa and St. Petersburg, okay? So, but notice here, it was right on the line here. And notice the shadow is right above it. And then CM1, the central meridian, there's 3 central meridians. CM1 is the equatorial one, the equator. CM2, since Saturn is a gas giant like Jupiter, it rotates differentially. So this is the north and south here. And then 3 is the internal core rotation of Saturn. So here you can see it just above the ring line, and that's Titan. And then here on the 31st, it's just a little bit above. And then on the 16th, it was above. And this is my conditions on the 16th. And these were pretty much the same conditions here. And then notice now, 16 days later, it got a lot higher. See it? And then the 18th, even higher. And then on August 3rd, even higher. And notice now the rings are getting a little brighter, and with Photoshop I used the dodge tool to bring them out a little bit, but they were getting a lot brighter. And notice the size of Saturn too. It increased from 16.5 arc seconds to 19.4 at the very end. Now these three were taken under perfectly clear skies. Notice the difference. Look at the detail you can see here as opposed to here. See, but even through the clouds, you could see pretty decent detail on the disk. And now it's higher. And then here, this is Dione, one of the moons, and and if you look closely, you can see a shadow transit right there. And right at this point, it clouded up on me. I remember this night, 11:30, the night before, it downpoured rain, and then I thought it was hopeless. And then by 1:30, it cleared, and then I only lost 37 minutes from the beginning and 37 minutes at the end. But it would have been cool once this was out to see a shadow transit of Dione, but it completely clouded over. And then here it was perfectly clear this night. And then here's the actual moon, Titan, and then there's the shadow. Isn't that beautiful? And these were under perfectly clear nights. And can you see the animation? I made an animation. Isn't that neat? So that's just beautiful. And then and if you look very carefully here, there's a little white spot, a little white oval. That's a little storm. See it? Right there, it appears right there. And then October 6th, which is Monday morning, about 1:30, actually before midnight. And you'll see this will be the very last one. Titan will be on the disc, so it'll look like this, and then the shadow will be kind of halfway rather than completely on the disc. And I'm hoping for clear skies because there's currently a tropical depression over all of Florida, and Miami and South is getting a lot getting a lot of rain. But here it hasn't rained, but there's still a lot of clouds hanging. So that's it. So I won't take up any more time. So any questions on that?
Thank you, Greg.
So I'm Karen Woodworth. I'm librarian of the Kalamazoo Astronomical Society. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about why this photo is special to me and then a little bit about the technical part of it. So in May, I took my family on a 2-week trip to Scotland. And for 3 of those nights, we stayed in a glamping pod on the shores by the standing stones of Callanish, which is on the Isle of Lewis. If you're not familiar with that, it's the northernmost island of the Hebrides. And so we went up to see the stones the first night we got there, and it was such an amazing sight. I said, I'd really like to see it in the middle of the night, even though, as I've shared before, I'm not very good at staying up late. But that night I did. So Saturday night, we went up there after the Eurovision finals, which got over about 12:15. So we had to walk up there first. And when we got to the top of the steep hill where this side is located, we saw this amazing 365-degree panoramic view of the sky that I have never seen in Michigan. So I tried to take a little video with my cell phone, which turned out completely black. But my son Arthur, who you may remember was a longtime member of the club before he moved to Ohio, he bought a real camera just for the trip. And so he took this one, and he did share the technical details that I'll share in a little bit. But first, if I can advance the slide. Oh, I did this before. Okay. There we go. All right, so he gave it a name in Gaelic, which I can't pronounce because I don't study the language, but it translates into Stones of Callanish at Night. And so you can see we took it around 12:40 a.m. on Sunday, May 18th. Might be off by a couple of minutes because I didn't get the timestamp from him, but that's roughly the time I was taking my black videos. I did look up, where we were in terms of the sunrise and sunset. It never really got dark because it was, a very high latitude. So there wasn't a whole lot of night, but the sun had set at 9:51. We were there just before the end of nautical twilight, which would have come at 12:53. And then the sun was coming up again at 4:54, which is why I also never got up there right at sunrise. If you'd like to see what this site looks like during the day, I'll give you a quick peek. This is one I took with my cell phone camera. So I've got the details up there, but it's pretty much automatic, so nothing too special. But this site is just really amazing. Okay, so here's the details that Arthur gave me. It was a ISO 800 with a focal length of 20 millimeters. The aperture was f50, is that? I don't know, there's something blocking that. Yeah, f5.0. The exposure was 30 seconds. There we go, yeah. And he took it with a Canon EOS Rebel T7. I said, is that mirrored or not mirrored? Even though I don't know exactly what that means. And he says it's mirrored. And his zoom lens was also a Canon lens. So there were two streaks in this photo that I noticed. So I zoomed in on them. I'm pretty sure they were satellites. That's the first one. And I've done a little inset to show you what part of the photo that's in. And here's the second one, which is closer to the center. So what do you think? Do those look like satellites or meteorites? Satellites, yeah. Anyway, I'm really glad I stayed up for this. It was really special. And I'd like to thank Arthur for sharing it. I hope you've enjoyed this photo.
Okay, so this is my astrophotography. That's a preview for an image later, but we'll just kind of jump right into it. So I'll take you back to October 2023. That was when there was the annular eclipse in the southwest. And so I drove all by myself all that way to Roswell. First time I ever drove quite that far to enjoy the annular eclipse. And I was hoping, you folks would be able to enjoy the partial eclipse back here, but apparently it rained all day long. So you guys missed this eclipse entirely, but from Roswell, it was pretty clear. Not clear, but mostly clear. And so I got to enjoy 4 minutes and nearly 42 seconds of annularity. And so here's me with my setup. This is the same exact setup I used for the 2017 eclipse. So for those of you that were around back then, you saw this back then. But this is my 130 millimeter stellar view, the big scope there. This is a smaller Astrotech riding on top of it. It's I forget what size it was now, like a 60 millimeter, which I've since sold and got a Sharp Star instead. It's on an Astrophysics Mach 1. And you can see my laptop there on the table, which is the same one that's running the Zoom thing here tonight. And then I powered everything with my Anchor power supply, which was really the first time I used that out in the field. And it worked flawlessly, had it fully charged. And by the time everything was over, I think I used just like 30% of it. So it's great for a full night of observing. I know back when we first started, power was a problem. Because you either had to plug into your car or try to bring deep cycle marine batteries. But today with these lithium batteries that you can recharge, the days of power issues are over. So there's easy ways to get power now, but they are still a little on the pricey side. So I wanted to share these real quick. So here are just some of my annular eclipse images, and I'll let you read some of the technical details there. So you can see the time, and for some of these, the time isn't going to change at all because I took them in really quick succession or succession, something like that. And so you can see all my annular eclipse images were 1/500th of a second. And I was at Bitter Lake National Wildlife Refuge just outside of Roswell, New Mexico. So this is when we're just about at annularity, and you can see little bits of beads, basically Bailey's beads, poke through the mountains and valleys on the moon there. And so I caught them coming in. but I'll show you more at the end there. And I didn't quite capture mid eclipse. I took 995 images of the eclipse, all automated, but I didn't capture the mid eclipse. So I was kind of bummed by that, but that's as close as I got. So it looks like there's a giant black hole in the middle of the sun. But then I tried to make sure I captured a lot of these. So these are all at 1143, and you'll barely see any change at the bottom here. So just kind of watch the bottom, and you'll see little bits of the sun along the edge there disappear as the moon kind of exits the sun. So that should be the next one. There's a slight change. There's like a little tiny bee down to the left there at the bottom. Another advance. Now it's kind of almost gone or gone. And there should be at least one more. So there's some slight changes there. It's very, very slight. But that should be the gist of it. And so here's my sequence of images that I assembled some time ago. I did put this in the newsletter back in 2023. So if you think, well, that looks vaguely familiar, that's probably where you saw it at. But there's the entire annular eclipse. So I really wanted to go see another annular eclipse because the last one I saw was on May 10th, 1994. And the next one wasn't for like another 20, 30 years. And I didn't want to wait that long because 20, 30 years, I'll probably be dead. So, so who knows? So I was really happy that I traveled to see that, and I'm glad the weather cooperated. Then, of course, last year, we've had some aurora this year, but boy, last year was like the year for aurora and eclipses, and it was just awesome. So this is the great solar storm of 2025. I forgot I had a few notes on my laptop here. So if you don't remember this storm, this was a G5 magnetic storm, the strongest solar storm in 21 years, and the strongest auroral display in 500 years. So this was a significant event last year that was caused by a very large sunspot and like roughly half a dozen coronal mass ejections that sort of combined together to get extra powerful. So this was a significant event. Fortunately, it didn't trigger a Carrington event. If you don't know what that is, just Google it. There's no time to talk about it now. So this was taken on the, speaking of the annular eclipse in 1994, this was taken on the 30th anniversary of that eclipse back in 1994. And the Tokina lens is really for a crop sensor, not a full frame like a 6D. So in some of these images, you'll see a little bit of vignetting along the corners because the lens really wasn't for that camera, but it's all I had. And this one I went long for some reason, 10 seconds, which really kind of blurred the aurora a bit. I don't know why I went so long, but I did. And you can see I'm obviously out at Richland Township Park if you've never been out there before, but if you have, you know what this is. I will admit there's one slight sort of AI change to this image. There was a porta potty right there, but I didn't like it, so I got rid of it. So right in front of the trees on the left there was a porta potty, so I got rid of that. I didn't want it there. So for me, this one was kind of of the three we had, this one was kind of, for me, the blandest. I mean, it was really spectacular, but compared to some of the other ones that we got later in the year, this wasn't my favorite. So this is on the night of the Perseids. I was out at Owl Observatory doing some imaging, which I still haven't processed those yet. And by the time I was almost done with the work in the observatory, I sort of looked up toward the sky, noticed, gee, it looks a little brighter than it usually does. Maybe light pollution from Plainwell or whatever is getting worse. And I walk out because, right just north of the observatory is a bunch of trees, so you can't really see the horizon. So I had to walk out and look toward the northwest. And it was one of the most active aurora displays I ever seen. And did I bring my regular camera with me? No. So I had to run home, driving as quickly and safely as I could, because you can't speed through Parchment because they will pull you over if you're going just 1 or 2 miles over the speed limit. And then I grabbed my camera, ran back out to Richland Township Park and took a series of images, including this one here. And I noticed the porta potty was gone by that time. So I did not remove it that time, but it's usually right there. So the peak of the display was over, but it was pretty spectacular, even for the camera. But my favorite was the one in October. Boy, was that a great show. It was just really active, really colorful. And this time I got a little smarter. I jacked it up to a higher ISO and shorter exposure so I could capture a little more detail so the aurora didn't kind of blur together like it did before. So basically the same exact setup. And by the way, the Manfrotto tripod is right here where the camera is. So that's the same tripod that I used, that I'm using to record the Zoom presentation here tonight. So of the three that we had last year, the three major displays, this one was my favorite. That was a great, great show. And I did take one more because for the first time in 20 years, I saw auroral corona, which is basically aurora directly over your head. So this is pointed straight up toward the zenith. You can see Delphinus here, just to the left of the center for those of you at home. And I only took one single 2-second exposure. I wish I would have took a series of quick succession shots and stacked them together, but I was just too excited, taking too many pictures and trying to take in as much as I could for myself as well. So that was great to see that again. It wasn't as bright as it was back when I saw it in 2003, because back then it was like overhead, looked like a warp in the space-time continuum. But the moon was out this night. It wasn't quite as brilliant as it was back then, but it was still cool to see. 10 minutes. Okay, now we got the 2024 total solar eclipse. And as I reported from home, because I had COVID when I did my eclipse report, I went to Jackman, Maine, which was the best state in the union to be in because it was completely clear. So then I took a whole bunch of pictures again as well with the Eclipse Orchestrator controlling my laptop like I did for the last two eclipses. And so here's Bailey's beads right before totality. And you can see there are some nice prominences, but there's a little preview of what's to come there for those of you that saw it and remember it. So again, this is with my stellar view. This time I'm using the focal reducer to get as much of the corona as I can. And this is about as short a picture as you can take and capture anything. So that's just 1/4000th of a second. And then I took this one, well, not several of this one. I finally got to process this back this past April, like a year after this happened. So this is my second high dynamic range image of the eclipse. And this is with several exposures. I have the list on my laptop, but I won't bother to read it out. But it's basically 11 different pictures between 1/4000th to 1 second, 1/4 of a second in Jackman, Maine. And so before I released the gallery of eclipse pictures on our website earlier this year, I wanted to get a good processed image. And so there's a whole lot of work that went into this one using Adobe Camera Raw and all kinds of other features. And thanks to Alan Dyer, who's joining us via Zoom tonight for the video presentation he gave for us, where he showed us how to process this. So I basically followed his video step by step to put this together. So thank you, Alan. And this is probably still, again, one of my favorite pictures. My favorite image from 2017 was at the very end with Bailey's beads. And again, kind of one of my favorite images is at the end with Bailey's beads. And I'm pretty sure from where we were in Jackman, we didn't just get a double diamond ring effect. We had three of them. They appeared extremely quick. If they didn't appear at the same time, they appeared within tiny fractions of a second of one another. I wish I could tell from my video, but this area was overexposed, so I can't tell from that. And of course, there's that just incredible prominence that just so many people saw and were amazed by. And here's just my series of eclipse images, my eclipse composite. And again, that's me in Jackman, Maine. And this is pretty much near Maine, Canada. So this isn't quite where I was, but it's pretty darn close to where I was. So it was completely clear there. So I again apologize for those of you that went to Texas that I ditched, but hey, I warned you. I told you I was going to do that, and I did it. So then just this year, we had a great total lunar eclipse, and we actually had clear skies for it. So we got to go out to the nature center. It was a lot of fun. We were out there till the wee hours of the night. I don't think I left till about 5, and I think I finally got to bed about 6 in the morning. So we had this lunar eclipse. Here's my warm-up shot of the full moon, just an ordinary picture of the full moon, just 1/1000th of a second with my stellar view, no focal reducer this time. And then there's pretty much right at mid eclipse, pretty close to it anyway. I think mid eclipse was at 259. This is at 258. I know I have one at 259, but this is the one that I liked and pulled out and processed. So just another really nice lunar eclipse. And then I created this composite of images, which you might recognize it for those few of you that actually read the newsletter because it was in there earlier this year. So there we go. That kind of catches me up on astrophotos that I've taken the past few years.
Okay, well, this is my observatory at night. I just took a picture of after the owl fledged. He took off, so I just opened the dome before doing some imaging. Okay, so that's the observatory during the day. If you notice in the right, those are owl houses on the side. And the one on the right, there's an owl sitting on the side, sunning himself. So this is a close-up off my camera. Western screech owl. So, anyhow, so this is my current setup. It's a TeleVue NP127 IS with a ASI 071 camera, Stellar Views guide scope with a Mach 1 mount. This is my first attempt at a dark nebula. I just took a hour-and-a-half shot of this just to see how they would turn out. Need to get more time if I do this object again. This is a second dark nebula. This is 2.5 hours, so it was a little bit better turnout. This is the Cone Nebula. I had a hard time processing it because Pixin's site would not solve it for some reason, so I'll probably just throw out all my existing subs and do it again. But there we go. This is the Witch Head IC 2118. This is 3 hours, 50 minutes. That's the way my camera orientated it. So there it's rotated so you can kind of see the face. This is the Flaming Star IC 405. This is 2 hours, 20 minutes on this shot. Most of my subs were 10-minute subs. A few were in 5-minute. And these are all taken from here in Arizona Sky Village, the same place where the club scope is. I'm just right around the corner from it. Once I got all my stuff working on the new computer here. Okay, this is the Dryers Nebula IC 2169. This got 3 hours, 10 minutes in this shot. I tried my hand at the Whirlpool here. That's just over 2 hours exposure time. This is the Sculptor Galaxy NGC 253. I lost all my subs, so I really don't know how long all of the images are. So skip over that one. This is M78 NGC 2068. There's a couple other objects in there too, but I didn't get them labeled yet. But this is just under 4 hours exposure. This one's pretty faint. It's the monkey head. I might add more time to it. This is 5 hours of exposure. The Rosette, of course, NGC 2237. This is 5.5 hours. And this is NGC 2359, Thor's helmet. I put a lot of time in this. This is 16 hours, 50 minutes. So my next one, I rotated it, cropped it to get a little closer up. But That's kind of a faint object. This one I want to add a lot more time to. It didn't turn out quite as well as I hoped, but this is 6 hours of the skull and crossbones, NGC 2467. And then this is Lower's Nebula, Lower's. It's a SH2-261. Just about 5.5 hours on this one. So other than that, I didn't get my pictures of the auroras off my cell phone, so I guess that's it for me.
All right, thank you, Jim.
My name's Eric Klein. I've been with the Kalamazoo Astronomical Society since last fall. Thanks to a member of the group, a former coworker of mine, Matt Borton. I'm forever in the group now. So I've been doing astrophotography probably less than 2 years, just kind of dabbling here and there. I recently acquired a Celestron C8 with a SCT with a Vixen Great Polaris mount, tracking mount, awesome scope. It's been fantastic for me. So I've been just kind of dabbling with it. I have two different self Astro modified cameras, a Canon 40D and a Lumix G7 mirrorless, both Astro modded by me, and a ZWO ASI 183 color pro camera. So I was just out dabbling one day and I was at Asylum Lake on a nice bright sunny day, just taking pictures of the sun, just trying to get some examples of what I can do with these cameras. And so the sun, solar spots, pretty easy to tell what this is. Let's see here, middle button. Let's see here. It's the middle. Oh, there we go. Oh, well, that's fine. They were both moon shots. So my son has been asking me to get shots of the moon. So that's I was trying to do too. A couple moon shots. And approximate dates, I couldn't tell you. It's just been whenever it's been out. So and let's see here. Another moon. Lunar eclipse, of course. That was a fun night. I was the only one up in my house. Nobody wanted to stay up. So I was like, I'm out. I'm dedicated to this. So it was fantastic to watch. Kind of rough here. I'm just trying to understand how to take photos of planets. I understand videos, kind of the way to go, stacked videos. So if anybody has advice, I'd be glad to take that. But Jupiter,
Better see,
supposed to be Jupiter. What's that?
summer of a better scene.
True. Kalamazoo was what, a Bortle, what, 7? 6, 7, something like that. Saturn kind of rough too, but first time I'd seen it through the telescope. So with the Celestron. So I was impressed. Like, there it is. Couldn't believe it. The Andromeda Galaxy M31. So when I use this telescope, I realized that its field of view is very narrow compared to other telescopes. So I switched to a SB Bonnie 503, same camera, the ASI 183 color, and I was able to get a wider field of view, of course. And so I was watching this thing progress on the computer, just a live stack. And I was just like, wow, okay, I can do this stuff. This is impressive to me. So Orion Nebula last year. And this whole thing got started with me taking photos one night with a different telescope that I no longer have, just shooting at Orion, and there it was. Like, oh my gosh, it's in color. I can actually see this thing. And then I was forever hooked after that. So I'm glad to be in the group. And Whirlpool Galaxy. And let's see here. Well, Pinwheel, that's up there. Ursa Major, didn't realize it until I was doing a little research. Like, there's another one up there too. So, and I don't remember the name of this one. It's in is it Cassiopeia? It's a nebula out there. I think it's in Cassiopeia, I think. It might be. I was I was aiming one night and like I heard it was out there. So one night I went looking for it and had so much trouble. And eventually the next night it was like there it is. So but the more I go, the better it's gonna get.
Hi, everybody. My name is Brody Westner, and come on. Okay, so I was born in January 2009. So as of 2025, I am 16 years old. Got interested in astronomy sometime in around 2018, and I got my first telescope with my Christmas money in December 2018. And then first night out, which was in March, started taking my first pictures. And then in 2024, I joined the Kalamazoo Astronomical Society. So starting off with my first images, so you can see the moon here, and this is probably actually my first image taken with my telescope. And then you can see Saturn there, so taken with the dreaded Celestron Power Seeker. And then with my iPhone 6S, moving on, we got my first deep sky objects, so you can see the Ring Nebula and the Andromeda Galaxy. And I use an iPhone 11 with Nightcap, which is a great app. Moving on, got DSLR astrophotography. So beginning DSLR astrophotography, got the Milky Way with a 18 to 55 millimeter lens and a Nikon D3200. So you can see the Milky Way here with the Great Rift region and the Scutum star cloud. Going up to the top right, got a close-up of the Milky Way core and M8 right there. And then going to the bottom right, you got the Cassiopeia region of the Milky Way with the Andromeda Galaxy right there. Moving on, we got a stacked image of the Andromeda Galaxy with 55 to 100 millimeter lens with at 135 millimeters. Moving on, so on November 19th, 2021, there was a deep partial lunar eclipse, which I know you guys in Michigan didn't get to see, but back in 2021, I was living down in North Carolina, so we got to see it. And up there's the Pleiades. So same setup as before. Okay, so in 2022, I got the Star Adventure 2i, so I started taking my first tracked deep space images. So here's the Pleiades. I believe this is about 30 minutes on the Pleiades. So you can see a little bit of the nebulosity, and this is some glare, which we'll just ignore that. And so now we got the Orion Nebula, and this is probably still my best Orion Nebula since I haven't really captured it since the weather's been so bad up here. And you can see a little bit of glare there. So 2 minutes exposure length, about an hour total integration. Moving on, I got a telescope, and in 2022 we moved back up here since before we used to live up here. And so this is the Skywatcher EVA Star 72. You can see the Whirlpool Galaxy here and a little bit of the outer regions. I believe this is about 30 minutes of data. So on November 8th, we had a total lunar eclipse, which this was taken actually through the clouds, so that's why it's a 30-second exposure and it's not blown out. So ISO 200, same setup as before, f5.8. Okay, moving on. So in 2023, I got a full spectrum Nikon D5300. So it allowed me to get more of the outer regions of emission nebulae. But I had to get this filter, the ZVI or cut filter, otherwise my stars would be bloated. So, and then I also got a guider in 2023. So 45-second exposure at 5.8 and total exposure time 6 hours. Moving on, this is the Triangulum Galaxy, so you can see the spiral arms. You got NGC 604 here, which is a nebula inside the Triangulum Galaxy. Same setup as before, 4.5 hours, 1 minute exposure. So every amateur astronomer has to capture the moon at one point. So we got the moon here, Celestron C90, ZWO ASI 120 MC, Star Adventure, and then UVI cut filter. So on April 8th, we had the total solar eclipse, which I'm sure a lot of you got to see. Up here, we got the diamond ring with, this is a composite, so this isn't true, but you can see the big solar prominence along with here, and then some of like the inner corona. So we traveled down to Avon, Ohio for this, so it was kind of hazy, so couldn't see a lot of the outer regions. And then down here we got a sequence of the partial phases, so diamond ring, Bayless beads, totality, and then back out again. And then I also got an AVX in 2024 with my Christmas money. And then moving on here, this is the Northern Lights G5 geomagnetic storm on May 10th, 2024. So 18 to 55 millimeter kit lens with the Nikon D3200. You can also see the moon with overblown earth shine. Moving on. So this is the Veil Nebula in the same year. I believe this was taken in July through August. So same setup as a lagoon, except I got an AVX now. This filter's wrong. I used the Ellen Hans. So 2 minute exposure time, f5.8, and 12.4 hours of total exposure time. So then later in the year, I captured the Pleiades, so you can see a lot more nebulosity now with, I believe this is IFN. I'm not entirely sure. So same setup as before. This filter's right this time. 2 minute exposure length, roughly 13 hours. Pretty close. Moving on, we got the lunar eclipse earlier this year in March. Skywatch Eva Star, all that. And then this is a sequence showing the partial phases with the shape of Earth's shadow. So the shadow isn't flat, so the Earth isn't flat. So it's spherical. And then you got mid totality in the middle there. And then this is my best image as of now. So this was taken at the Great Lakes Stargaze earlier this month, or I guess last month now. So this is the Andromeda Galaxy. We got M110 here, M32. And there's the specs there, so 2 minute exposure length. And then I had to do 30-second exposures for the core because the core was overblown. And then 9 hours of exposure time. And then I believe the next slide is the aurora that you guys were asking for last time I was here. Yep. And then you can just barely see it there, so it's not super impressive, but yep, I believe that's the end of it.
Hello, everyone. I've been with KAS for about 20 years, and I've progressed this right here. This is my William Optics 132 millimeter FLT. It has, let's see if I can use this here. Top button.
Bottom button.
I just want to use a laser. Oh, I see it. There we go. There, right there. It has a 0.72 millimeter or times actually focal reducer. So I can use this for pretty much anything. Okay. Anything. If I take that off, I can tweak out planetary work or works great on the moon or deep sky. So it's pretty good all around. And see the black and red scope here. That was a big talented OPT Radiant Raptor. Everybody had to have one. Okay, and that's where it's at. It's a guide scope now. They aren't that good. Okay. Now yeah, it was $1,000 guide scope. So, but, it works great for that. And the cameras are, DWO 2600 MC Pro right there. And the, ZWO 290 mm Mini, which is perfect. Real tight stars on it. That's the top one, right? The bottom one. The middle one. There we go. Oop, this way. There we go. Okay, that's Andromeda. Pretty much. But the thing about it is it's only 24 shots at 200 seconds. Okay. And I don't use any calibration frames. I don't use any flats, darks, whatever, none of that. So I just use the 24 light frames and process that. Yeah. This is all my processing is done in Photoshop, Creative Cloud 2025. It works pretty good. Learning curve's not too bad. I've yet to try the Pixin site that everybody likes, but that might be next. But anyway, this is probably the best one I've gotten. The thing about it is that I get the whole thing, one frame with that big scope. Let's see, what's this? I see a lot of gradient in that right there, lot. Okay, that's the lack of calibration frames, more or less. You probably get most of that out, but I took this one picture here is done with a smaller scope. It's a little wider field. It's a ghost of Cassiopeia. Pretty cool. It's really faint. This is about 4 hours. Let's see what else we got. Okay, I took this one just a few nights ago. It's a M33 triangulum. It's with the big scope, and you can see it's, there's room for more in there with even with the big scope. So I've cropped this down in other images and it looks really great cropped, but this is, let's see, this is 40 to 330 second subs. I'll squashed into that, but I like the color right here, the blues. It's picked up a lot of detail. That's the heart. I took this one not too long ago too. It's like a couple of weeks ago. It's a little hot. That's like it's a little bit processing looks a little hot, but I'm doing some of this on my phone too. If anybody's tried that, processing on your phone. I have Photoshop Express on my phone also, and import them back and forth between my phone and my main computer. But this is about 4 hours too, and wow, I haven't seen this big. Okay, let's see what else we got here. What object is it? All right, obviously this is the moon. I was telling Richard that before we started here that this particular image of the moon, you can just blow this way up and it just doesn't lose anything. I used a large region of interest to do this, and I think it's about a 3-minute video. But it's with the 2600, which is a deep sky camera. So the frame rate is really slow on it. It's real slow. So you don't get a big stack out of it. This is only about, I think it's about 300 pictures stacked into that, but it's a really nice picture, right? I've been taking pictures of the moon about 10 years, and this is probably the best one. Oops, that was later. Okay. Okay, now, all right. If you do this long enough, okay.
Yeah.
You do this long enough, you get something like this. This was totally unplanned. I didn't even see it or hear it when it flew through. It was during a video. I was shooting a video to do a stack, and I saw it go through, and I was looking at my monitor. I went, "Oh my God!" This went roaring through, and there's actually like 4 pictures. There's 4 frames, but this is the best one. And my brother told me it's a Dreamliner, but I don't know, whatever. If anybody knows, let me know. But I think that's all of them, isn't it? I think it is. Yeah, that's all of them. But like I said, I've been doing this for like 10 years. Okay. And it's real, I already feel outdated with my equipment. So I was telling Richard that, but anyway, thanks.
Yeah, hello everybody. My name is Jeff Miller. I'm kind of a newbie here. I've been a member of the club for about a year, and I found the thought of presenting here a little bit intimidating, but I give Jack Price credit for getting me convinced to step out of the shadows on this. So basically, what I've entitled this is kind of what I've learned in the last 12 months when it comes to astrophotography. So just a little quick background about me. I'm originally from Muncie, Indiana. My father also, when I was growing up, worked for Nikon for 10 years. So I had a lot of cool toys, learned a lot about photography when I was a kid growing up. When I was in high school, I actually had the opportunity to take an observational astronomy class at Ball State University. So that kind of whetted my appetite about telescopes and cameras and stuff like that. After college, I became a IT manager at Zoetis. I've been there for 39 years. But also on the side, I'm a special or semi-professional photographer specialized in sports. Over the last 35 years, I've shot at the Indianapolis 500, as well as other IndyCar and other sports car events. And I also do a lot of hockey photography, and I'm kind of the downstate photographer for the Michigan Tech hockey program. So just rolling back a little bit, this is kind of what got me rolling. So this may look familiar. This was back in my hometown of Muncie, Indiana. And the eclipse last year, we were in my hometown was in the path of totality. So I decided to take advantage of that. And being a sports photographer, I got lots of long lenses and things like that. So I decided to take my Z9 and my 500 millimeter f4, put a Bader solar filter on the front of it, and see what I could do. And that's my wife and my parents next to her. And we had some high clouds there, but fortunately it was good enough that we were able to get some good results. So here's probably one of my best images out of that. I will say there's a bit of dumb luck here because obviously this was my first eclipse. So I didn't have an idea what exposure settings to use, and I kind of dumb lucked into it. I was pretty happy with the results. So from that point forward, the fuse was lit, unfortunately, my wallet. so flash forward, Richard, while you were over in the ball field, I was a little further closer to the cornfield from you that evening. And I had my just my Nikon Z9 with a fisheye 60 millimeter lens on it and on the tripod, and got some nice stuff side to side. That was definitely a very cool evening. And on top of that, my wife and I decided as things were winding down to do a little self-portrait there to commemorate the event. So not long after that, we'll say we have a lake cabin in the Upper Peninsula in a Bortle 2 area, and that's where I am right now. And that's why I couldn't be there. It's because we're up here this week. And when the comet rolled around in October last year, I decided to take a stab at it and added my first piece of equipment, that being the Skywatcher Star Adventure Pro. And so initially I did the white stuff with my Z9 with a 24-70 on it. And unfortunately, the clouds didn't cooperate when it was the peak night for the comet. So this was a couple days later. By that time, the very bright moon was still in the sky. But I decided to take advantage of it and kind of make some nice shots showing the fall foliage up here, illuminated by the moon, which was behind me. These are a couple of shots. I then switched over to my Nikon 135 f1.8 lens. It's a really, really cool lens. It's tack sharp side to side and super fast. So I did my first stacks of images in the Deep Sky Stacker using both the Comet mode as well as the standard mode. And these are results I got from that. I also can't remember how many frames were integrated on this. I wasn't recording such things back then. Then I decided to go ahead and get an actual astro camera. being a Nikon guy, I picked up a used Nikon D800A, the only astrophotography camera that Nikon made. Ironically, it's the rarest DSLR Nikon ever made. There was well under 1,000 of these ever sold in the US. Picked up one used on eBay. Also picked up a used Celestron AVX mount and started trying my hand at other things. And so this is the Orion Nebula that I shot in March of this year out in Texas Corners at the Township Park. This is only a 30 exposures stack at 30 seconds each on this. And then let's shifted things up here, back up the cabin. And it's really amazing being a Bortle 2 area. It blows me away how much you can get with such short integration times. So this is the Lagoon Nebula and Trifid Nebula. Again, this is, you can see there's 15 1-minute exposures. That's all this is. And that's why I was able to capture that. And I was pretty happy with the results on that. And also the Eagle Nebula. This was 34 keepers, 1 second each. And this is, I will say, this was done in August. But I did see, you'll notice there, I did add an ASI Air Plus into the mix, and that was a gigantic leap forward. I was really frustrated with, I mean, it wasn't bad, but the polar alignment, particularly at our lake, which I don't have a clear view of the entire sky, so that made it a little more challenging. And I'll tell you, man, having that ASI Air, just it's stupid easy doing the polar alignment with those. And then in August, this is obviously the Andromeda Galaxy. This is 60 or 1 hour of 1 minute exposures that are stacked. And then I'm kind of ADD when it comes to shooting at nights. I can't stick with one thing. I got to keep moving around. So that's one of the reasons why I don't have a lot of super long integration on a lot of these. So after I did the Andromeda Galaxy, I turned it around and a little bit and did the North American Nebula. And this is actually only 30 1-minute exposures. And then this one, this is probably my favorite one I've done so far. This is again with the 500 millimeter lens, 45 minutes of integration time on both the eastern and western Veil Nebula. It's kind of cool. You can kind of see, kind of the whole story there about the, remnants of the supernova on both sides of it. So I was pretty tickled with that. And then we came up here this week. My intent the first night was to shoot the Bode's Galaxy. And as you may have seen on the Facebook page, I started setting things up and I looked to the north and I said, well, okay, I guess that's not happening tonight. The Northern Lights had other things in mind. So my wife and I sat down by the lake until about 2 a.m. with just our iPhones and a little Gorilla Pod and sit there and took lots of photos. And it was a very, very cool display. Visible to the naked eye, even overhead stuff. And it was a neat experience. And then this is a late breaking one here. This was actually last night. This was the Triangulum Galaxy. Now, you notice there are a couple things that are new in the mix. I did purchase last year a Celestron 8-inch Schmidt Cassegrain, but really hadn't started using it for astrophotography yet. And I decided I want to go after some of the smaller stuff. And so also decided to get a Skywatcher mount upgraded from the AVX because I just wasn't really happy with the way it was working on the longer exposures. So last night I tried my first hand at a something deep sky with that setup using a reducer also. And this is this is 1 hour of integration time. And the other cool thing about this is I was fairly happy with the results, but this also was done when the moon was up and glaring big time on the other side of the lake. So there's a lot was left on the table, I'm sure, because of the moonlight washing stuff out here. But it was a good first drive of that setup. And then kind of a story here. I think hopefully everybody can relate with this. This has kind of been the story of my year as I've learned things and I've kind of progressed, and then I'm still discovering ways to mess things up. So, but I think I'm getting a little better handle on things, and I look forward to progressing in the hobby. So with that, that's it.
All right, thanks, Richard. My name is Mike Van Gore. Kind of a little bit new to this, kind of moving from visual astronomy with my 8-inch Dob. Last fall, I purchased a used William Optics Z61 and really kind of put a lot of the effort into the mount. I bought an AM5 mount. I was starting out with my Canon Rebel 450D. Was really kind of unhappy with results there. I was getting a lot of sensor noise with some of the long exposures that I was having a hard time getting out. And so in July this year, um, I bought a ZWO ASI 533. And this is actually one of the first images that I was able to take with that. This is NGC 7023, the Iris Nebula. This is 210 4-minute exposures for about a total of 14 hours. Shot over 2 nights, August 30 and 31. And this was stacked and processed in Serial. This was like the third image I think that I actually used Serial for, and so that has helped uh, things proceed quite a bit. I was excited about all that. And then just briefly, I'll share just a couple more. Um, since we are in October and Halloween is coming up, I also shot the Bat Nebula. This is IC 1340, which is part of the Eastern Veil Nebula. This was a 3-night project, 244-minute exposures for 16 hours, and had a lot of fun with this one. Um, and Working with star extraction and reconstitution is kind of new, so hopefully this turned out okay. Hopefully you can see that the well there in the group. One thing also that I thought I'd mention, I did check out the Sea Star S50 in June and July, and this was the Trifid Nebula. I did have a lot of fun with that. It felt honestly a little bit like Cheen, um, just because you could like set this thing up and just start right away. And this is 30 minutes of 10-second exposures, lucky imaging of M20, the Trifid Nebula. Um, I would highly recommend if anybody is interested just to try this thing out, just because it is an immense amount of fun. Um, I could go out, take the dog out at night, and it's like, oh, kind of cleared up. Set this thing up, and you're imaging in just a couple of minutes. So, in the interest of time, I'll stop right there. And thanks very much. I really enjoyed the club. Really enjoyed all the advice that I've gotten from members as well. Thank you.
Okay. I'm Tim Kurtz, member coming up on 20 years now. I don't know exactly how long. So I presented a little bit last year. I've got 19 images. I'll go through these really quick so we can get out of here. So first, and I only did everything since Astrophotography Night last year, and these are in order by date. So back in October, we had a Comet C23A Suchin Chang, right? Canon 90D, you have a Sigma 150 to 600 lens on that, and I don't remember exactly where my zoom was on that, but I did 242 8-second shots. It's one of the first times I used Deep Sky Stacker to do comet stacking, so it has a function in there where you can stack your comet and your stars, and it recombines it and gives us this nice image. All right. Oop. I'll go back. All right, so that's it. Okay, so then I was using Jim's Celestron AVX because his scopes, as you saw down there in Arizona, and he doesn't use that mount right now. So this is M33 Triangulum. Shooting this one here from Kalamazoo. I have a ZWO ASI 071. It's a APS-C style camera. This was 200 3-minute shots, about 10 hours. I just reprocessed this week. I had done it in Serial and I wasn't happy with it, so I just went back. I'm learning PixInsight now, and I just did some little bit of touch up with contrast adjustments in Photoshop and in Lightroom. Now December, visited Portal. I sent my gear down there, and I bought my own new mount. So I got the ZWO AM5N. This was Witch Head from down there. It's a combination of a couple of different nights. Got almost 9 hours of data on there, some 2 minute, some 3 minute shots. And then this is another one where I went back. Originally had done this in serial, wasn't happy with my data, and then touched it back up in PixInsight. So Sharpless 2 275, the Rosette. Is it NGC 2244 is the open cluster there in the center. This is where with my ASCAR 71 millimeter on the AM5 with that 071 camera. And this is another mix of two different exposure lengths. This is the first image that I took with the remote telescope. I recommend everybody become, we're members here, use the remote telescope. It's out there. You can take really cool images, just like me. So this is our 20-inch plane wave on the software bisque with that great big mono CCD camera. And this was, as you see here, is not very many shots. I've got, 4 times 5, 20 minutes of each red, green, and blue. So that's an hour and just a little over an hour of luminance. So we have 2 hours on this, and this is a pretty faint little reflection nebula. I was just picked a random target and went for it. Then I had shot the Pleiades before, and then I wanted to redo it. So while I was down there, only 3.5 hours on this one. And you can really see how much more of the dust was able to come out in the processing on this. The orientation was a little bit different. I flopped it around so it looked more like the ones you see online and then cropped it down to make it look pretty. I completely forgot that I imaged this. I was going through all of my data to figure out, what am I going to present for Astrophotography Night? And I was like, oh, hey, check this out. So I processed this last night, but only 2.5 hours on the tadpole, and I think that's what these little guys are right here. I think that's how it got its name. Okay. I should know that, but anyway, yeah. This was my first attempt at the Sol Nebula, IC 1848. Only 3.6 hours, and that's a Bortle 1, Bortle 2-ish sky down there in Arizona, so it doesn't take nearly as much integration time as it does up here in Kalamazoo. Reprocess this one in PixInsight. Please ignore all the noise in the background. So one of the other cool things about the remote telescope is you can take everybody else's data and process it. So Richard took these shots. I was digging through there. I was like, well, while the scope's shooting, you're just sitting there watching the subs roll in. What else do? You download all the other images and process them. So M3 glob cluster. I processed this in January while I was killing time. So thank you, Richard, for your hard work. And here's another one where I stole some of Richard's data. So, well, some of your data, okay. He had some, like you didn't have any green subs, but it must be, I don't know. So I used his. But yeah, M81, that one turned out pretty well. Another one I shot with the remote telescope. This is only hydrogen alpha. I just gave it some false color, so that's the bubble nebula. I'll go back and finish it later. So here is NGC 7023. We saw there on Zoom. It's a similar image, a little bit wider field of view. I have since upgraded to the 6200 full frame camera. It's really awesome, except for the subs are 4 times bigger files, and so it takes like 10 times longer to process. This is 300 subs, 10 hours. That's so much data. I just started this and went to bed. It took like 6 hours for this to crunch. But I think, fiddlesticks. There we go. This guy over here is, I think Casper the Friendly Ghost or something like that. Okay. This one I shot from here in Kalamazoo, my 71 millimeter, my 071 camera. And this was the first thing that I processed in PixInsight when I got a license for it. I was able to get M81, M82 in the same frame.
Getting a jet out of 81 or 82, red, that red, right there in the middle.
That's like it's the H alpha coming. I think that is like that excited H alpha region. It's like a very active galaxy. Yeah, starburst. That's the term. I took your class. I should know that. I've always wanted to shoot the Rho Ophiuchi area. And this is another thing that I tried with the full frame camera. I'm going to go back and do this with my new telescope. I'll show a picture of momentarily, but you can see Antares down there at the bottom. That's M4 glob cluster. There's another tiny one there that has a number that I don't know. But this one was shot from my backyard. My southern sky has gone to pieces. The road commission built their new palace over there. They've got a lot of terrible lights. So this is kind of the shooting into Cygnus area in the Satyr region. You can see the Crescent Nebula up here at the top. Trying out a new filter here, so that's why I think quite some of the odd colors that I wasn't able to exactly process out, but learning curve, right? So about 5 hours of data. Back in May, we finally got some clear skies again, and my equipment had been returned to me from Portal. Thank you, Dad, for your courier service. And then NGC 7000, IC 5070, the American and Pelican nebulas. I'm just really impressed with the field of view that the 71 millimeter has with that full frame camera. You really just get such a wide swath of sky. And this was only, 3.5 hours. This one I was doing we had a batch of clear skies there at the end of August, beginning September. Did the Heart and Soul. And now this is with the Red Cat 51 millimeter that's not 41 millimeters with the full frame cameras. And this is still cropped just a hair, but question mark about 300 images because I tried to reprocess this because I'm actually not super happy with it. It should be brighter, but PixInsight is telling me that I have something wrong with my color channels with my data now. So TBD. Maybe we'll see this one next year. All right, so here I did the entirety of the Cygnus loop. So we're seeing the eastern and western veil, and there's all these other NGC bits and pieces that are up in there. This one does have 15 hours of data on it. That Red Cat and that full frame camera gives you just so much sky, and it's pretty fast at f4.9. And then I just finished this one up, I don't know, Sunday, maybe. I got the ASCAR back out. I got the 071 back out because the full frame camera is attached to the Red Cat and I don't want to tear it apart. I wanted to shoot the lobster claw, and I was able to capture the bubble up there in the corner as well. This one has almost 16 hours of data on it. All right, so here's my Canon 90D. This is similar to the setup that I used to capture the Comet. Using the SkyGuider Pro mount, typically with this or with the Comet, I was probably just on a tripod. Here's my 71F with the, well, it says the 071 camera. That's actually the full frame, but I have a camera angle adjuster on there as well. And that's the AM5 mount. And then here's the Red Cat with the full frame on it. And it also has the camera angle adjuster. That's it.
Hi, I'm Pete Mumbauer. I've been a member with Richard since the 90s, doing a lot of observing and a lot more imaging over those years. So it seems like every year I'm updating my astrophotography rig. So this is the latest incarnation right now. I primarily do close-ups of stuff with a 12-inch f4 Newtonian, custom made. I built this myself. The only thing that's left over is a GSO primary mirror, but 12-inch f4 is pretty fast and pretty big. So that's great. This year I added a Nightcrawler focuser rotator to handle all this weight and all that other fun stuff. Increased the secondary mirror for more illumination, went from a 3.2-inch secondary to a 4-inch secondary. Those mirrors are actually kind of heavy. I have it stuffed in my former next dome, which was a 8-foot dome, which, because I'm not as in shape as I once was, I really got to suck it in when I had to go around the back end of the scope. So this bigger dome will be nice. And then I have a wide field rig I pieced together over the years. Skywatcher GTI, a Sharp Star 61 Apple. I do have the focal reducer on there, so it's running fairly quickly around, I think, f3.9. Just a basic SV Bony guider and little auto guider in my QHY 294. I did upgrade the main scope camera to an OGMA is the name of the manufacturer. Basically, it's the same 2600 base camera as all the other Chinese ones. So let's start looking at pictures. Stuck. It's broke. So the first image, whoop, nope, that's not it. There we go. So I've been always wanting to do this whole region of M8, M20. The small refractor made a perfect tool to do that. So I got M20 up here, I got M8. It's an H alpha RGB. Basically, the H alpha blends into the red channel and gets all that stuff. Being in the southern sky, in my tree situation, I think it took me almost 15 nights to get this picture together. We got a nice little globular NGC 6544, which I've never seen visual, but now I want to. And of course, M21 up here. Next, I did the North American and Pelican, but because I don't have a super monster size large format camera, I had to do 2-panel mosaic. So basically cut this in half because my camera's half the size of Tim's. So I had to have 2 frames to get the same thing. But ever since I was shooting in the 90s, I've always seen the beautiful TechPan film images of this region. And I've always wanted a nice black and white version of it, like back in the film days. So I finally got it. It's about 10 hours per panel. So kind of 20 hours, but this was a cool one to process. I'm just starting to learn how to do mosaic. So, and all this processing's in PixInsight totally. So now onto the big scope. This is NGC 3718. It's also known as ARP 214. It's a peculiar bar spiral, and this was the main target. But I also noticed we had NGC 3729, which they believe is causing the distortion in this galaxy. So this is all kind of the same group. Then off on the side is a Hickson group right here, Hickson 56. That's a pretty cool one. And there's just tons and tons of background galaxies. You can scroll on my Astro bin all day. 13 hours of exposure, lots of 100 by 300 for the luminance. I don't do a whole lot of color because it works out pretty well with a faster system. So I just focus on just piles of luminance data. Next up in Leo is NGC 2903. For some reason, I thought it was called the Hamburger Galaxy, which I was totally called out for on the internet. So I stand corrected. This is 7 hours and 39 minutes, not much, but when you're working at F4, it doesn't take long to get a lot of data in. So once again, I spent most of the time on the luminance, getting all that. Got some, this is a little spiral galaxy, which I don't know, it looks like a elliptical, but I mean, smarter people than me. And then we got a nice bright, what was it? Oh yeah, magnitude 7 SAL star, which made for a nice little field. So that's how I framed it up purposely like that. And then my bigger crowning achievement for this fall was the Pegasus 1 Galaxy. I was just looking around, and there are very, very few amateur images of this. It's actually, there's Pegasus 1 Galaxy cluster and a Pegasus 2, which is a small subset. This field of view is a ½ degree. The actual cluster is 6 degrees in size. It's massive. There's actually a really neat technical paper from MSU and another college all on this. It's pages and pages if you want to get into the gory details of this. It's roughly 160 million light years away. You got, oops, you move me back. All sorts of different types of galaxy types. You got face-on, you got edges, you got two ellipticals, and you can't really see it here, but there's a really faint gravitational lens right here on the side I captured. And even more amazing, when I ran it through some of the annotation softwares, right down here, there's this little string of pearls, and that's another galaxy cluster, but it's 2.5 billion light years away, so a redshift of 0.2. So that was really neat to get that in there. I use Aladdin, and there's a few online processors that you can throw your image in and it'll get all the really faint stuff, quasars, oddball stuff. And there are a couple quasars in here, but I didn't bring the annotated version. But yeah, 170 by 300. So that was one of those, start processing and walk away for a while, mow the grass, stuff like that. And that's it. I got a lot of data between those two rigs running every clear night or even a couple hours a night. You collect a lot of data. And sometimes it's probably going to sit on a hard drive for a while. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Pete.